Nobody sat down one day and decided to invent the sword. It was built from accidents passed forward across thousands of years. Each generation added one small piece without knowing the full picture. And the person who made the first true sword inherited all of it. The story starts not with a weapon, but with a fire and a strange rock. Someone picked it up because it looked different from the others. They had no idea what they were holding or what it would become. They just thought it was interesting, and put it in the fire. What happened next would eventually lead to every sword ever made. The rock began to change in the fire. Something was happening inside it. A liquid appeared at the bottom of the rock, shining and strange. They pulled the rock from the fire and watched the liquid cool. When it was cool, they touched it, and it did not crumble like stone. They hit it with another rock, and it bent instead of breaking. No rock had ever done that before. No material had ever done that. They had just discovered copper without having a word for it yet. They showed it to their group, and the group gathered around it. Someone tried to shape it. By hammering it against a flat stone, it got thinner, got wider. It stayed exactly as they had shaped it. And when they made the edge thin enough, it became sharp. The world's first metal cutting tool was made by total accident. But copper had a problem that would take centuries to solve. The knowledge of how to get copper from rock spread slowly outward. Group to group, trade route to trade route. Generation to generation, every community that learned it started experimenting in their own way. Some made tools, some made decorations, some made small weapons, but everyone hit the same wall eventually. The copper was too soft. A copper blade bent when it needed to cut something hard. Someone somewhere was going to have to figure out something harder. And if watching humans figure things out like this keeps pulling you in, subscribing means more. The next discovery happened same way the first one did. By accident, someone was heating copper ore when a different rock fell into the fire. The tin ore mixed with the copper ore in the heat, and something changed. When it cooled, the metal that came out was harder than anything before it. They had made bronze without knowing what bronze was. Copper mixed with tin makes something neither of them is alone. Bronze held its edge longer. It was harder. It stayed sharp through use. Whole civilizations changed. Because of that one accidental mixture in one fire, the Bronze Age had begun, and nobody called it that at the time. They just knew that this metal was better, and they made everything from it. Bronze swords began to appear around 1600 BC, long blades that held their edge and could be used in real combat. Bronze was remarkable, but it still had one problem left to solve. Under hard enough impact, bronze bent or even snapped. A weapon that broke in battle was a weapon that could get you killed. Smiths worked for generations, trying to make bronze harder and better. Then around 1200 BC, something happened that changed everything again. The Bronze Age collapsed. Almost every major civilization fell at once. Trade routes broke down, bronze became hard to get, tin disappeared, so metalworkers turned to a material they had always ignored. Iron ore was everywhere. They had walked past it their entire lives. But iron needed a much hotter fire than copper or bronze. The fires humans had been using were simply not hot enough, until someone figured out how to make a fire burn hotter. Forcing air into a fire makes it burn dramatically hotter and faster. With a hot enough fire, the iron ore finally gave up its metal, but the iron that came out was not yet usable. It was full of impurities. You had to hammer it. While it was still hot, to force the impurities out, this was called working the iron, and it took enormous skill and patience. The more you worked it, the stronger and more consistent it became. And when iron was worked correctly, it was harder than bronze. A worked iron blade held its edge longer and did not snap under pressure. Iron was also everywhere. Unlike tin, which had to be traded across vast distances, any community with iron ore and a hot enough fire could now make weapons. Now watch what happens when a skilled smith gets iron and time together. They heat the iron until it glows a specific color of orange. That color tells them the iron is ready to be shaped. Not too hot, not too cold. They pull it from the fire and begin to hammer it into a long, flat shape. Back into the fire, then out again, then hammered again. This repeats many times, each cycle making the blade longer and flatter and more refined. Now, the smith begins to work the edges, thinning them carefully. The thinner the edge, the sharper it will be when finished. Then comes the hardening, a step that makes iron into something different. Rapid cooling locks the iron structure into a much harder state. But hardened iron is also brittle, so you heat it gently one more time. This is called tempering, and it gives the blade the balance it needs. The smith grinds the edge on a simple colored stone until it is sharp. They test the edge on a piece of wood, then on bone, then on leather. Then they add a handle, so a hand can grip it safely. And when they hold it up, finished, it is the first true sword They didn't invent it, they completed it. Every accident, every discovery, every generation is in that blade. The copper discovery from thousands of years before is in there. The bronze accident is in there. The bellows invention is in there. The sword spread from smiths who taught smiths who taught others. Within centuries, iron swords were being made across the entire ancient world. Armies changed, warfare changed, history changed because of accumulated accidents. Every war, fought with iron swords, traces back to that first strange rock. Nobody planned any of it, and all of it was necessary. The sword was not invented, it was discovered one accident at a time.